All right, so this week's topic of Amuna Mondays was the skewed perspective upon our times. And before I begin, the class is dedicated to a couple names. I'll say them now and I'll repeat them at the end as well. So the following names are Refuah Shalema for Leah Lilach Bat Sarachana. May she have a speedy, immediate, full recovery. And Lule Nishmat for Gabrielle Masauda Bat Sarah and Roger Asher Ben Marcel. May both their nishamas have the ultimate aliyah. So the topic of the skewed perspective upon our times. I was sitting on Friday and I was learning with one of my friends, and immediately we got into like just a casual conversation about how difficult but yet how simple Emuna is. And we're going back and forth with different angles, and eventually we came to the conclusion that it really isn't that difficult, especially because it's something that's growth oriented, like it's constantly growing. But at the same time, the society and the like position that we're in nowadays is significantly different and harder than the times before. And I'm not saying harder as in, oh, this is like, no, at the end of the day, we do have stores. We can just go buy things, as opposed to back then, everything had to be made, had to be farmed, had to be this, had to be that. Like, it's a lot different times. But because of that, we can look back at their times and say, yeah, if I worked harder for my things, I would appreciate it more. So it's easy to give Hashem credit. And in our day and age, yeah, it might seem like it's easier because we can just go to the store and pick something up and everything is, in a way, pretty instant. But because of that, Emuna is so much more difficult because there's nothing that we're really waiting for. There's like this aspect of, if I want something, I'm going to go get it. And as soon as I don't get it, then I start resenting or hating. And it's just like, it's a very toxic mentality and perspective in life. And we live in that day and age. We live in that day and age where we can walk into a store and it's so hard to appreciate the food because all I did was just go in and drop and swipe a card. I didn't even give cash. I just swiped the card and walked out with it. So yeah, it's easier as opposed to going, farming it, and then getting it, and then doing all the stuff that I have to do to it to actually make it edible, and then eat it, and then serve. Like, there's a whole process back then. And we live in this day and age where even if Amuna is being touched upon, it's appeared as something else. And that's the most difficult thing, is because we as humans, we like affirmations. We like being recognized. I'm not saying it's something that anybody should search for. Don't search for recognition. But it's foolish to think that somebody doesn't appreciate being recognized or it doesn't make them feel good being recognized. Even a good morning, even a hi, even a good job, just recognize them. A lot of people just need and feel to be and want to feel to be recognized, and sadly that's just something that's so, like, if you recognize them, they're going to quit. Or if you do this so people don't, they don't quote unquote feed the ego. When it's like, it's not feeding the ego. Sometimes it's just fuel. It's a source of fuel. To know that you're doing a good job, to know that a person cares for you, to know that, oh, that was funny. It's not to feed the ego. And unfortunately, a lot of people feel like it's just feeding the ego, so they don't do it, resulting in a lot of people just not feeling recognized, not feeling acknowledged that the work that they're doing. And then when that happens, it's very easy to just distance yourself and stop it and be like, okay, nobody even recognizes it. Or it's like, I'm going to spend 10 years doing good, and then the one time I do something not good or not perfect, that's what they want to latch on to. And sadly, again, that's the perspective that we live in. The people around us, the people in power, this, that, and this is not saying everybody. It's not. There's a lot of people that recognize and acknowledge good people and this and that. But it's sad because the minute Emuna is being touched upon, it's perceived as something else. And we can genuinely say that because back in the day, all the great people, Avram, Yitzhak, you start naming them, anybody from back in the day would look upon our times and never want to take that test, because it is a test. It's extremely difficult. And just from that, we can acknowledge, yes, I get it. We should have role models that we should look up to. But at the same time, understand it's a different time and different place. That's the truth. It's a different time and different place. What we struggle with now, we don't know if they would, if back in the day the greatest people would be able to handle it the way we are. We don't. It's just talk, literally just all talk. Because at the end of the day, they're not in this situation. Same way we can't say, oh, I would easily be able to believe in God if blank and blank and blank, if I was thrown into a furnace and came out. We don't know. We don't know. It's very easy to talk from a third person. So it's like what we have to understand is that the constant judgment concept being put into our head that, oh, we're being judged, being judged, being judged, we're not being judged the exact same way. Nobody is. For instance, I can go and eat non-kosher, somebody else can eat non-kosher, and it's two different sins. God is going to judge them and on two different scales. It's not, oh, not kosher, it's all the same. Shabbat, all the same. Tzniut, all the same. No. Why? Because God factors in all of the prior stuff beforehand. What led up to it? What's the background? This and that. And those are things that our eyes cannot perceive. We can't. We don't have that perspective. And unfortunately, we live in a day and age that that's all people want to do is judge off vision, judge off of ears. But yet, God's judging off of everything, your thoughts, your actions, your mouth. Like, He's judging it off everything. And it's all factoring into something. And it all will end up making sense. And again, Hashem will judge properly to it. But to think that we're just going to constantly be judged for the same way that everybody is before is foolish. You know, there's the concept of Shammai and Hillel, how they're both right. They say polar opposites, but yet they're both right. The only way that I could personally was able to comprehend such a thing was one person lived it while the other person learned it. One person sat at a desk, learned the book, and decided his way. And in doing so, I find person that sits and learns from a book, I'm not saying it's one's better or worse, I just find they're a little bit more narrow-minded. They're not open to the concepts of different angles and different journeys to get to one destination because they were educated and learned by one journey, one destination, as opposed to a person that never learns it from a book and rather learns it from life. They tend to be significantly more open-minded. They can say their story, say their scenario, and that's simply just expressing how they got to it and how they did it. But now somebody else can come in and say completely opposite and yet still say, oh, and that's how I connected to God. And it's like, whoa, that's amazing. And they're significantly more open-minded. So Shammai and Hillel, I don't know, and again, this is not a fact. This is just a thought that came into my head. I'm thinking one of them actually learned it from the book while the other one lived it. One was significantly more strict than the other one was significantly more open-minded and lenient. Not to say that, oh, he could just say anything and throw it around and everything's accepted. He's just significantly more open-minded to hear the process of coming about another answer or another way. So that was this week's topic. It's just, again, the skewed perspective upon our times. Understand the times that we live in and judge accordingly. You know, we don't know a lot of details about people's life. We only see things. We maybe will also hear things, but that doesn't make them perfect. That doesn't mean that our quote unquote understanding of the person is clear. It's most likely, and 99% chance it's not. But again, that's why it's so skewed. It's because we live in a day and age where you can't trust your eyes, you can't trust your ears, so you're sitting there like, what can I trust? And it takes a course. So again, the refuah shalema was for Leah Lilach bat Sarah Chana, may she have an immediate, speedy, full recovery, and Leule Nishma for Gabrielle Masaud bat Sarah, and Roger Usher ben Marcel. May both their neshamas have the ultimate aliyah. Thank you.